Hey, welcome back to the channel. This is David Clayson, and this is kind of maybe a three-part series video, maybe. Here's one link to the first video. I talk about me. I've transitioned from one church to another, from one state to another, all the way across the nation, so that you can watch that here as I talk about that a little bit. And then I just did a video on, I'm at a new church now, on the differences between this new church versus the other church I was at in North Dakota. And this video, I get even more specific. I was the lead pastor at my previous church, and at this church, I am the youth pastor, and I am talking about the differences in youth ministries. I was also the youth pastor in the one in North Dakota as well. I served as both. But I'm talking about the differences in youth ministry where we're at right now compared to where I was at. And the first challenge, the first one for me right now, I've only been in this position for 4 months, and so there's definitely going to be more challenges that come. But the first one is that in North Dakota, all my kids went to the same school. And here where I am at, my kids are going to 5 different schools. And so there's a couple middle schools, and then 3 or 4 high schools, so 6 different schools, 3 or 4 high schools that they are going to. And that is a big challenge because when they come together on Wednesday nights, not all of them, are friends because they haven't been going to the same school all week long. They don't see each other at practice or at orchestra or whatever. They don't have those connections that my kids back in the previous town I was in had. So there's pros and cons to that because in the previous town I was at, they knew the good and the bad, where here that's not the case. Like a kid could get in trouble here and everybody else at youth group, they don't know that they got in trouble. They don't know what happened. And so there isn't that connection, which comes with a challenge of trying to fostering that connection when we do meet. We have 2 days a month where we have a connect group, and then we have our Wednesday night meetings, and then we try to do like a serve event and a fun event each month, and that's where we get the kids connecting to one another. I kind of have some experience in this in the way that I grew up because I had my church friends as well as my school friends, and they were different. They were different groups there, and so we have that same challenge here. So in a way, I guess I understand a little bit what the kids are going through, and I'm able to minister through that. But that's definitely a challenge. The next challenge, though, too, is that because it's 5, 6 different places, 6 different schools, how do you get into those schools? I have some students who are going to high schools that are 30, 40 minutes away. And I had mentioned in my previous video, that's right here, talking about the differences in church, that our lead pastor, he wants us to focus on the community that we are in. And so we have 2 middle schools and a high school in the community that we are in. And these are big high schools. I grew up in Washington State, and our high school at the time was 4A, and we had about 1,500 students in our high school. And the town I was at in North Dakota ministering, it was 200 students, K through 12. And I was able to get into the school system by coaching. I coached cross country, I coached track and field, I coached volleyball, so I got to know the teachers, I got to know a lot of the students. A lot of the students knew me, even if I didn't know them in North Dakota. But that is not the case here. And so there's that challenge there with how do I put this? How do you connect with those students and their friends? And I think that's another challenge there too, that we have students coming, and they come because their parents attend our church. And so they come, but their friends might be in a group going to a different youth group. And so they come, and you can tell it's like, man, I don't really know anybody here. Because of that, I don't really want to be here. And so we have that challenge there, and that's why it's important to that I try to help those students make those connections with one another. But what I just mentioned there, that's another change here. In my previous youth ministry, the majority of my students, their parents did not go to our church, and most of them did not go to church at all, period, nowhere. They attended nowhere. And so all of my students that came on Wednesday nights, we had a couple or a few come on Sunday mornings, but the majority of them, they were hearing about God from me, and that's it. They wouldn't be getting it in their lives, wouldn't be getting it in their home lives. And so that was our opportunity to tell them, hey, here's the cross, here's this God the Father in heaven who loves you, sent his son to die for you. But here, where I'm at now, the parents are attending our church, and the kids are going on Sunday mornings and are doing the church events. And so they aren't only hearing it from me. That is good. I think the more church they have, the better. But that also allows them to have more knowledge about the Bible, I would say. And if I have some of my students from North Dakota watching this, you're not going to like what I'm about to say, but I would say my students here have more biblical knowledge than my students did in North Dakota, just because they have grown up in the church. And, some of them, they were forced to read the Bible. Their parents were like, hey, we're having Bible study time, Bible reading time, we're going to do that. And so they know about the Bible. And so it allows us, that little bit of change, it allows us to start a little bit higher in our messages, in our sermons that are presented to them, because they already have like a decent foundation to work from. And so that's another change that we have with the parents going to church. There's also more communication between myself and the parents, which is nice. Sometimes we would have events or other things in North Dakota, and it was tough communicating with the parents. A lot of times I would be communicating with the students through the parents, even though I tried to reach out to the parents themselves. And so that was difficult. So it's a little bit different here. And at the same time, I have, not that I would ever preach anything heretical at all, but if there is anything that is questionable in a sermon, or like maybe the students don't agree with, and they go to their parents, and their parents feel the same way, I'm going to hear about it. I'm either going to hear about it with them approaching me, which I think from the parents that I know so far, I think the majority of them would approach me, or I'm going to hear it when they go talk to the senior pastor and share with them, hey, I heard this, this, or this. And so we just, man, I went to the deep end of the pool pretty quick. We are in our third month of youth ministry. They take a break in June and July here, so we started back up in August, and also fourth or third, yeah, we're in our fourth month then, I guess, because of August. But in September, we did some deep stuff. We talked about what the Bible says about sex, what the Bible says about marriage, what the Bible says about pornography, and like how pornography is bad for you. And then last Wednesday, we talked about homosexuality and what the Bible says about that. And so I've built a relationship with a lot of the students. It hasn't been the deepest relationship just yet, though, because we haven't had enough time. But I threw them into the deep end pretty quick. And so I say all that long explanation to say, like, that would be an example, like, of a parent's like, okay, you went too deep when you were giving the statistics about pornography, or that shouldn't have been said here or there or that or something like that. And I would hear about it because the parents are attending our church. So that's a difference there too, which is good. It keeps you accountable. But sometimes I can see the negative side of that being you preach the Bible and the parents don't. It goes against their own views, and then that could cause some tension there. And so that's another change. And the other thing, so the last place I was at, there wasn't much to do in town. We had a couple restaurants. We had a couple parks, a few parks. We had a ski resort not too far away, but there wasn't much to do. So for them, the students just like getting together and hanging out, whether that was playing games, mainly playing games. We'd have movie nights and stuff like that too. Down here in this big city life, there is a lot to do. And the schools here offer so much more than they did where I was at in North Dakota. And even when I was going to high school in Washington State, we were a 4A school. We were a decently sized school, yet they have more options down here, being like a 5A, and some schools are 6A around here, meaning they have 2,000, 3,000 students, and they have programs for those students too, where they can, it's crazy. It's almost like they can almost specialize in what they want to do before they even get to college here. But that also means that, okay, now you're competing. You're competing with orchestra, you're competing with choir, you're competing with cross country, football. Holy cows, football is huge down here. The stadiums, the high school stadiums down here are like college stadiums around the nation. It is crazy how big football is here. Anyways, so it's definitely been a culture shock coming down here. But there's more to do. One of the things I've encountered is a student of mine is in cross country, and they have meets on Wednesday nights. And so he's missing Wednesday night youth because of a sport. And I know in the community I was in North Dakota, that was unique because the Ministerial Association, before I got there, they had made an agreement with the school where all practices would be done by 5 or 6 to allow the students to go to Wednesday night activities at the different churches in town. And now I'm here where sports are having competitions on the nights that we're meeting for youth. And so there is that challenge, working around all those schedules. And so like on Wednesday nights, we're averaging 12 to 15 students right now. On our Connect group nights, which meets twice a month on Sunday evenings, it's a little bit more, or on the higher end of that scale there. And then we have our serve events / our special fun events. We're trying to do one each month. And those, because of just scheduling, and they have to, a bunch of school stuff on during the weekdays. I'm doing them on Saturdays. We're only getting like a handful, like 5 to 8 going to those events and everything. And so that is something else too. But still, even though there's so much more to do, something I've noticed is that the students are like the ones in North Dakota, where they want the opportunity just to hang out with each other. They still want to get together and do something rather than be at home, playing video games or by themselves. They still want to get together. And so that definitely is a help where, okay, let's go to church and do a little devotional and play some games and stuff like that. They still want to do that, even though they have so many different options to do so many different things in this big city. And so that's another difference for sure. But yeah, those are some of the differences that I've encountered so far in youth ministry. I'm sure there is more than what I have said so far. Those just are the main ones that I've noticed. And so it's unique and it is challenging being down here, and it has definitely kept me on my toes. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the Lord has for this ministry in the next few years here as well. So yeah, those are some differences for you. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one, and have a blessed day.